Downtown Atlanta is in the midst of an urban renaissance. A bevy of new attractions and amenities have people flocking back into the city. And they're not just coming for short visits. Some are making it home. Metro Atlanta is vast and sprawling, connected by an amalgam of artery-like roads and highways. At its core, an active downtown district. Metaphorically speaking, one could say the agency known as Central Atlanta Progress, or CAP, acts as the proverbial personal trainer for Atlanta's core. CAP is a private nonprofit community development organization. It consists of dedicated individuals and agencies that are committed to creating a vibrant and sustainable downtown. 75 years of hard, focused work has yielded some positive results. Centennial Olympic Park, the College Football Hall of Fame, the National Center for Civil and Human Rights, and a host of new and revitalized in-town housing. CAP continues an active regimen of creating powerful partnerships that make the core of Metro Atlanta even stronger. A.J. Robinson is the president of Central Atlanta Progress. He understands the mechanics of construction and development, both physically and fiscally, as you'll see in today's Executive Profiles.
You grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, correct?
Correct.
Tell me about childhood for A.J. Robinson.
Had a great childhood. You know, Knoxville is a wonderful place, wonderful family. My father was an entrepreneur. My mom is the concerned person of the world, likes people, you know, concerned about where the world's going. So I had a pretty good mix there. I highly influenced by my father, who wanted me to come into his business. And I became very practical and went into the business school at Emory. Majored in accounting. It was a wonderful practical training for what came next. I ended up thinking, you know, I ought to go into business, but I didn't learn much about business. I just learned about accounting and thought I really should go back to graduate school.
So you ended up at Harvard,
yeah,
and did a couple of years in Cambridge.
That's right.
Getting your MBA, which must have been a pretty fascinating experience, because it probably led to the next phase of your career where you found yourself on the other side of the world.
That's right. And one of the things about going back to a school like Harvard, it did open a whole lot of doors. It changed my life. And I put my name on a list of people that were interested in setting up a business school in China. Now this was in 79, 80. The doors had just opened. Carter had just normalized relations. Never heard anything for 3 or 4 months, and I got a call from the U.S. Government about 2 weeks before graduation and said, "How would you like to go to China next week?" Literally one day after graduation, and it was a kind of a Peace Corps experience, right. And it really, Harvard changed my life, and then the experience of being a year in China was even more so.
You spent 22 years with Portman Holdings,
right?
With John Portman and his Jack Portman.
Right.
Tell me about how that all came together.
It's serendipitously. I was way up in the northeast side of China, and I'd heard that Jack Portman had opened an architecture office in Hong Kong. I wrote him a letter, handwritten letter. Darn if he didn't return that and said, check with me in Hong Kong when you get out, which I did. And here I was back in China after thinking I would never be there again.
Right.
And that's how it all started.
AJ, tell me a little bit about the intersection between you spent all this time in China, and you spent all this time in Atlanta. Was there any time when really where the two cultures came together, where maybe you brought folks from China over or people from Atlanta over to China?
And one story in particular always resonates with me is that when we designed the project, a 50-story building had not been built in Shanghai ever. And we literally, the fire suppression system was so new and so technology, something we take for granted here. You know, you turn the sprinklers on, you have a fire, sprinklers come on. In China, you put a fire out with a bucket brigade, with people. You know, you hand the bucket to the next guy. Well, you
right.
can't do that 50 stories high,
no.
right? So literally part of those early 80s was bringing folks from China here and showing them something in Atlanta. And I remember accompanying a whole delegation of the fire chief from Shanghai and coming here and showing them how the Westin Peachtree Plaza at the time, how you put a fire out. But I take great pride in the fact that what we had done in Atlanta and what Portman accomplished in China from those early days is that transfer of knowledge, investment, everything exported out of Atlanta. I think we all take great pride in it.
Let's talk a little bit about Central Atlanta Progress. It's really been amazing since you've joined the organization how much downtown Atlanta has transformed itself. How many years now has it been?
It's been 13.
13 years.
Well, I think I came at a time, post-Olympic time, where we were ripe. Downtown, people have been exiting downtown for decades. And then about 2000, things started changing. Got interrupted by the recession. But now, as you know, urbanism is hitting all around our community, everywhere, and downtown is no different. And I think what we've been able to do is kind of nurture it along in a way that has prepared the infrastructure of downtown to kind of receive some of this. The people's interest in rehabbing old buildings and being near Georgia State as opposed to be away from Georgia State. And so we've taken advantage of that, and we've been, quite honestly, the timing's been good.
What are the things that excite you most about next 12 to 18 months in downtown?
Well, I think we have these transformational projects. Number one is underground. Underground is under contract. Wonderful opportunity. Civic Center, Turner Field, Phillips Arena. We've got this little stadium that's going to be completed next year. So we have some really big projects that will, I think, just catapult us forward.
Let's go back to a little personal things. You have 3 kids,
right?
A wife who's a pediatrician, and they're all successful in their own right. When you talk to them about their careers, about where they want to go, what does that conversation look like as opposed to when you were a young person?
I tell them, aim high and find your passion. I mean, I kind of stumbled into my career. I had great guidance in education and openness and support from my parents to do whatever I wanted. But that message in today's world is, I think, of finding one's passion resonates more, and try to do something that makes a real contribution, not only to yourself, but to the world. That's what I tell them.
Have you hit all your opportunities the way you wanted to? Are there any regrets? Are there things you would have done differently?
Yeah. I don't have any regrets. I think that everything that I've done has kind of built on something else. Once I completed my, what was a 10-year ordeal building a project in Shanghai, China, in the middle with communist Chinese as your partner, I figured, well, I mean, what else? I don't need to do anything else, or I can do anything, right?
Central Atlanta Progress picked Centennial Park to receive its Downtown Economic Impact Award. The award goes to a company or a project that's stimulated revitalization efforts as well as left a positive mark on downtown. Centennial Olympic Park serves about 3 million visitors annually. Since 1996, the park has attracted more than $2.4 billion in investment to the area. Ahead, Patrick Crosby pulls some intriguing figures tied to enrollment trends at Georgia's colleges and universities. We go by the numbers next.